Perhaps you've heard this sound without paying attention. A soft pop sounds outside the window. It lasts less than a second, then everything becomes quiet again. You look out into the yard and see nothing. Or sometimes, you spot a small bird lying on the ground, its eyes open but its body motionless. Most people think it's just an unfortunate accident. The bird flew too fast. It wasn't paying attention, or it simply made a mistake. But ornithologists argue that the truth is quite different. The bird didn't make a mistake. In fact, it was doing exactly what nature had taught it over millions of years of evolution. When a bird flies toward your window, it doesn't see the glass. What it sees is the blue sky, the trees, and an open space that seems perfectly safe to fly through. To humans, glass is a transparent barrier. To birds, however, it's a giant mirror reflecting the world around them. If the window is reflecting the garden, the bird will believe it's another branch ahead. If the glass reflects the sky, it will think it's still flying in its familiar natural space. It rushes forward at maximum speed, and then, in an instant, it all ends with the crash you just heard. Sadly, this is not uncommon. Every day, millions of birds around the world face this invisible trap created by humans. Even more surprisingly, a very common habit in our yards is greatly increasing this risk. And it's quite possible that if you have a bird feeder in your yard, you're unknowingly creating this trap. If you love birds, chances are you've placed a bird feeder in your yard. You fill it with seeds every morning, hoping your little guests will visit, bringing song and life to your garden. That's a well-intentioned act. But there's a truth that few people know. The very location of the bird feeder can sometimes put birds in danger. Imagine a small sparrow perched on a bird feeder. Suddenly, a strange noise rings out. It could be a door closing, a dog barking, or the shadow of a hawk gliding by. Driven by survival instinct, it immediately takes flight. There's no time to think. There's no time to observe. It only knows it must fly as fast as it can to escape danger. And at that very moment, your window reflects the sky and the green trees behind it. The bird sees a perfect escape route. It lunges forward at full speed. Surprisingly, researchers have discovered a particularly dangerous distance. If the feeder is placed a few meters from the window, the bird has enough space to accelerate, but not enough time to notice the obstacle ahead. That's why many collisions occur even in gardens designed to protect birds. Conversely, if the feeder is placed very close to the window, the bird won't be able to reach a speed high enough to cause serious injury. If placed further away, it also has more time to change direction when it detects an anomaly. A small change in your yard can sometimes make a huge difference. Simply moving the feeder to a suitable location can significantly reduce the risk of collisions without needing to buy any additional equipment. But the location of the feeder isn't the most worrying thing. There are times of day when your windows become perfect mirrors, more dangerous than at any other time. And that's also when mysterious crashing noises are most frequent. Oddly enough, windows aren't always dangerous for birds. There are times of day when the risk of collision increases significantly, and most of us don't realize it. The first time is right after sunrise. You can try something simple tomorrow morning. Step outside and look out the window from a few meters away. Instead of seeing the glass, you'll see the blue sky, clouds, and even the trees clearly reflected on the glass. That's exactly what birds see. And, coincidentally, early morning is also when birds are most active. After a long night, they need to quickly find food to replenish their energy. Flocks of sparrows, finches, and cardinals constantly fly through gardens at high speed. When birds' foraging activity coincides with the window's strongest reflection, the risk of collision increases significantly. But mornings aren't the only time. Late afternoons, as the sun sets, west-facing windows become giant mirrors. Birds making their last foraging trip before nightfall also face this invisible trap, especially during breeding season. A male bird defending its territory won't fly cautiously. It swoops down to chase away intruders, find a mate, or bring food back to its nest. Its survival instinct makes it focus on the goal ahead, completely unaware that the glass reflects the entire sky. Then comes migration. This is perhaps the saddest time. Millions of young birds leave their birthplaces to embark on their first journey in life. They've never seen your garden. They've never met your home. The only thing they can rely on is their own eyes. And those eyes seem to say that a vast, open sky lay ahead. Perhaps that's why many people hear crashing sounds at certain times of the year without understanding the cause. But what worries scientists most isn't the timing of these crashes. It's the one that suffers the consequences. Because the bird that just crashed into your window may not be a random visitor. It could be a bird that has visited your garden for years and even recognizes you every time you step outside. When people hear about birds crashing into windows, they often think it's just random birds flying through the garden. But animal behavior researchers have discovered something very interesting. Many garden birds don't live the nomadic life we imagine. They have their own territories, familiar routes, and frequently return to places where they feel safe. Think of the cardinal that appears on your fence every morning, or the pair of sparrows that come to your feeder at the same time each day. You might think they're just different birds, but the truth could be quite the opposite. It could be the same individuals, day after day, month after month, even for years on end. Scientists have discovered that many bird species have incredible memories. They can remember the location of food sources, safe shelters, and even the people they frequently encounter. If a person regularly provides food and poses no danger, the birds will gradually consider that garden part of their familiar territory. That's why some people feel like they're waiting for a familiar guest every morning. And sometimes that guest is waiting for them too. There's a story shared by many bird lovers. A woman recounted that a male cardinal had been in her garden for many years. She knew which branches it liked to perch on when it usually came, and it was always the first one to visit the feeder each morning. Then one day, she heard a crash outside her window. When she ran out, she saw the bird lying motionless on the ground. She said that from that day on, the garden seemed quieter. It wasn't because of the lack of song, but because she knew she wouldn't see her familiar little friend again. Many might think it's just a bird. But for those who take the time to observe nature, each individual has its own habits and personality. They are not just a part of the garden. They become a part of our daily lives. And perhaps that's why protecting them is even more important. But if one day you hear that familiar crashing sound and run outside, what would you do? Unfortunately, most people, with the best intentions, inadvertently make a mistake that could cost the bird its last chance of survival. Imagine you just heard that familiar crash. You run out into the yard and see a small bird lying on the ground. Its eyes are open. Its wings are still moving very slightly. It's alive, but it can't fly. Most people's first reaction is to run over and pick it up. That's a very natural reaction. We want to help. We want to keep it warm. We want to give it water or some food to help it regain its strength. But surprisingly, that's not the best way to save a bird that's just crashed into a window. Wildlife experts say that many birds don't suffer broken wings or legs after a hard crash. What they experience is a shock very similar to a concussion in humans. In the first few minutes, their bodies are disoriented. Any sudden movement or loud noise increases their stress levels. For small creatures like birds, stress is more than just fear. It causes a rapid heart rate and depletes the little energy remaining in their bodies. That's why experts recommend that if the bird can't fly away immediately, the best thing you can do is provide it with a quiet place to rest. A small cardboard box with ventilation holes is a suitable option. Gently use a soft towel to place the bird inside, avoiding handling it too much with your hands. Then, place the box in a dark, quiet place, away from dogs, cats, or loud noises. Don't try to feed the bird. Don't give it water. And don't constantly open the box to check if it's better. What that little body needs most right now is time. After a period of rest, take the box to a safe place and open the lid. If the bird has recovered, it will fly away on its own. If it still cannot stand or take flight, that's a sign it needs care from people experienced in wildlife rescue. But there's an interesting fact that few people know. You don't always see a bird lying under the window after a crash. Sometimes you only hear a very faint sound, and it's the other birds in the garden that will be the first creatures to let you know that an accident has just happened. Perhaps from tomorrow, you'll look at the windows of your house in a different way. That small, fleeting sound you once overlooked might be the moment a tiny bird attempts to fly toward the sky or a tree it believes to be. It's not making a mistake.